of funds management here at Rask Invest. And today we're going to be doing a live Rask Invest walkthrough, but also covering a topic that I've been pondering recently due to a community post, which was essentially about what are the characteristics of a good investor. So we're going to get into that today. Now, as always, this is an interactive session. Please ask your questions. It's always better when people ask and send through their questions. But also remember, this is general advice only. It's not personal or specific advice. I do not know your needs or objectives, so I can't answer anything that is personal of nature. And before, if you are thinking about investing with us here, or anyone for that matter, please ensure that you read the product disclosure statement and financial services guide and seek financial advice from an advisor if you believe you need to do so. So once again, thank you for joining me. As I said, this is a live Rask walkthrough, but today I'm going to be talking about what I believe makes for a really good investor. Now, for me, this is a really important topic because I've been speaking with investors for approximately, about 15 years now. And I believe I can almost tell immediately if someone's going to have a good time investing with us or investing in general. Now, what I mean by that is I can kind of tell the characteristics that are going to have someone tells me that someone's going to be a successful long-term investor. But before we do that, I'm just going to quickly jump around the Rask Invest website. For those of you who are viewing this for the first time and wanted to see what a Rask Invest account looks like, I'm currently logged in here. I'm logged into Owen's account. This is a Jupiter portfolio. So this is the dashboard. So the first page that you'd see when you log in, you can scroll down here and you can see here's the overall portfolio. It's up nicely, actually, since Owen first invested. You can see here, scroll down the performance chart. This is a chart that compares the contribution made to the current value. So you can see in the last few months, it's really started to pull away there from the initial investment. And what we'll expect to see over the years as the dividends compound in this portfolio and the capital growth continues, we expect to see that blue line just stretch further and further away from that initial contribution. So if I go and click on account holdings, you can see here, I can see every single individual investment. Transactions, if I click on that, I can see every single transaction we've ever made in this portfolio. Dividends and interests, I can see all of the income received in this portfolio as well. So I'm just going to go back to the dashboard here. Okay, and so what I'm going to get into today is just going to be sharing some of my favorite resources and talking about the topic of what makes a good investor. Now, how this actually came about was over here on the Rask Community. So I'm logged into the Rask Community. We have almost 800 active members in the Rask Community. So if you've not yet joined, you can go to rask.com.au and you'll find the community section, or you can just go community.rask.com.au. It's free to join. And this is actually going to be one of the resources that I'll be sharing here today. So I'm just going to scroll on down to the conversation. Actually, no, it's a little ways back. So I'm going to go over here. It's a trending post. And the initial post was about more informed investors prone to making poorer decisions. And it takes it from this First Links article here that talks about the people who stay on top of the news and they're on top of all of the latest research and whatnot. It goes in to say essentially those types of people are actually poor to make poorer or more investment decisions and overtrade. And so this got me thinking, and a lot of people have chimed in here. And you can see here, there's my post with me saying that I'm actually going to go ahead and do this specific topic. And so what I started to think about was if you recall the healthy food pyramid, where you had like all your cupcakes and fats and all sorts of terrible things for you up the top. I thought about what the healthy investor pyramid would actually look like. So for me, news articles and things like that at the very top are the tip of the other sometimes food, as the Cookie Monster would say. So I'm over here on the Fin Review. If I looked at this morning, the whole page was just Trump, 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 Trump. Staying informed with this information for me is actually the least critical bit of being a good investor. Absolutely read it if you would, if you're enjoy staying on top of the news and enjoy unknowing what's going on in the world. But for me, it's actually the least critical bit. Even more so is your mainstream stuff. So once again, it's all Trump, Trump, Trump. This is not designed to make you a better investor. And even the Fin Review is not designed to make you a better investor. There is so much noise and distractions on this page. So as when it comes down to, hey, being a better investor, this stuff does not help for me at all. So instead of like jumping, all it is actually designed to do is generate clicks. And the more verbose the headline, the more clicks it's going to generate. You probably have seen 1,001 articles about what does Trump mean for this? What's the Trump trade for this? Or what does Trump mean for the blah economy? It's not going to help you. All it's going to do is generate revenue for these guys through making you click. Or maybe generate more anxiety in you as an investor. And that's the one thing that we want to eliminate. So a couple of resources. I actually, instead of looking at, I do look at this once a day, just so I know about the latest things, because, I'm talking to people every single day. So more likely than not, something will come up from here. But something that I instead focus on, I like to look for good role models who remind me to think long term when it comes to investing. So I like resources, for example, such as First Links over here. Sometimes you'll see a headline or two that are that are a bit over the top, but mostly it's pretty what I would call slow news. Of course, there's always going to be, say, this time around, talk about the election, etc. But generally speaking, it's pretty slow news, and they have a really good way of essentially making the current news and taking that and putting it to you in a digestible way for a long-term investor. I also like to keep up to date with a good old mate of mine, John Addis. This article, if you Google "How to Worry Better" by John Addis, this article, I think it's outside of the paywall on The Intelligent Investor. I'm pretty certain it is. But it breaks down John's guide to essentially understanding how your brain works and stressing less about the current news and the current environment. I highly, highly recommend that. And recommend resources such as where is it? Here we are, the RAS Community. I think this is a much more healthier way to digest and understand the current comings and goings in the investment world, and asking questions here and getting good, sensible, long-term answers to those questions. So if I was then to jump down into what I actually do think makes a good investor, going down my little healthy food pyramid. The next one that I included in this particular post was about knowledge and experience. Of course, you can't rush those, but you can actually you can't rush knowledge and experience, but you can stand on the shoulders of giants and those who have come before you. Some of the best things one of the most interesting things that I read recently was actually this book. Let me just jump across to Amazon. Buffett, The Making of an American Capitalist. Now, this was originally published in 1997. So it misses out. 95. It misses out on a huge chunk of Buffett's most recent life. But even if you're a set and forget ETF investor, as I know most of us here are, the reason why this book really resonated with me is because it really did show the ebbs and flows of financial history, and the basically shows you that, what's the saying? History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And it shows you that how his investing approach went in and out of fashion over different times. And it really resonated with me because people get very much carried away by all the latest news and latest rhetoric and latest advancements, etc. AI is a big one right now. People might feel like if you don't hold any specific AI stocks, you might be missing out. But this really puts into perspective that everything we're going through now, we've been through before. And so I remember when I actually spoke with, I was fortunate that a while ago, I used to work with Paul Clitheroe, and I ended up interviewing him about the 1989 stock market crash. And something that Paul said to me was that Australians, we don't have a long history with investing and being in the stock market. And so essentially what he was saying is we don't have a long history and knowledge of corrections and recoveries. So it's not in our DNA. And so that was really interesting. And one thing that he implored people to do was learn from financial history. So hence why I think this particular book is a really useful book, even if you're not an individual stock picker, as most of us aren't. If you're an ETF investor who's got a well-diversified portfolio and you're buying you're consistently buying into the market, I think this is really useful because it does show you a wonderful history of the the fads that are always going to be involved in investing, and the noise that you need to block out to be a successful investor. Now, another tool that I think pretty much anyone should have in their tool belt is jumping across to the Vanguard website. Now, once again, I know, as I said, knowledge and experience takes time, but you can catch yourself up to speed by lots of these tools and whatnot that are available online, and ensuring that you go to the right places for them. And Vanguard is the inventor of the ETF, John Bogle. They are the true house of very, very long-term investing. Now, people often will ask us, oh, hey, why don't I just invest directly with Vanguard instead of, say, coming with Rask Invest? And it's a really good question. But essentially, we think Vanguard has wonderful ETFs, but we don't believe they have the best ETF in every single category. So our job is to pick the right tool for the job. And so we're picking the best ETF to represent each asset class and to give us what we think is the best representation of that asset class. And so, yes, we hold some Vanguard ETFs. For example, in our portfolio, our Australian share exposure is made up of VAS, which is the Vanguard ASX 300 ETF. But we don't, of course, then have a whole suite of Vanguard ETFs. We have iShares, we have some beta shares, etc. So going back to this is a wonderful tool that I try to show new investors as often as I can. You can see here, you can scroll. This is set to the year 2000, but you can scroll right back here to 1970. And this shows you the year-on-year returns per asset class. So even if you've not been through it all before, it's wonderful to get a sense of what the real movements of each asset class are, because they're actually far more volatile year to year than what you think. As investors, we will always gravitate towards the per annum numbers. And so let's have a look at what, if something's done 9% per annum since inception or 8% per annum since inception. It sounds like a nice, smooth, neat number. It hides the truth. It hides the reality of the ups and downs and the swings of market. Like, look, look at this particular number. I just couldn't believe it. Just stood out to me. In 2013, the S&P 500 year to date returned 53.6%. That is not a normal year. I can tell you that much. But it's interesting to make yourself familiar with the booms and busts. And I think the more familiar you are, the more comfortable you'll be, and the more you'll hold for the long term and not get too carried away one way or another. Now, if I was to jump back and then look at what I believe is the single most important thing, and the reason why I think I can tell from having a chat with an investor if they're going to have a successful long-term relationship with investing, it's got to be temperament. So when I say I find that I'm chatting with people and they I can tell that they're not going to do very well. Usually what stands out is that person's need for activity. They often mistake activity for achievement, and they come to investing thinking that it's going to be something exciting. Now, a lot of the world does a really, really good job of making us think that investing should be exciting, including maybe us as well. We have lots of really interesting, cool interviews on the podcast, etc. But it always does come back to thinking about long term. But the people who I think do the worst are those who jump on and think that that jumping in and out, predicting markets, etc., that is what the actual job of an investor is. The most exciting bit about investing to me is actually when you're right at the start. So maybe a lot of you watching this might be right at the start of your investment journey. And the most exciting part is doing the research. You're doing the research, hopefully from good role models, good investment role models who are long-term, slow thinking, like Jack Bogle from Vanguard, reading the Vanguard articles, reading our guides that we have, talking with us as well, reading the history of markets. And so that type of stuff, I think that's the exciting and interesting stuff. But when you get going, when you buy your first, especially diversified portfolio of investments, your job for the next 20, 30 years is literally to do nothing. It's to hold on, it's to reinvest, and it's to also then add funds when you can. That is it. That's the real simple job. And so that's why I think temperament and not seeking out that excitement is the main driver of a successful investor. And it goes back to then just letting time do its thing here. So it's letting time do its thing and letting that gap grow and grow and grow and grow. Now, if Owen here had a regular contribution plan turned on, so that's where we automatically pull funds from your bank account. If Owen had this turned on, you'd see that little gray line looking like a little step ladder, and that blue line would be gradually increasing away from that as well. So what you're hoping to do is to see these two lines diverge by as much as possible, and that's what time is going to do. And only you and your temperament are going to do that. Now, don't take my word for it. I go back to my old mate Warren. And I thought this was actually really interesting. Buffett on investing. This is from Schroders in the US. The quote is, "The most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd." And then as well, his second quote here is, "Successful investing takes time, discipline, and patience. No matter how great the talent or effort, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant." That's I think, a fantastic quote. And so really, and there's also a couple of things as well when John Addis, actually, a mate of mine, I've got his book here. I had this book because I was looking up an article that he referenced in it, and basically there was a study done in the US, and it looked across 66,000 brokerage accounts. I've got the study just here, actually. There we go. And it looked at just over 66,000, and there was about a 6% difference from those who traded, 6% per annum difference from those who traded the most frequently to the least frequently. And the reason for that is, one, the more you trade, the more decisions you make, the more likely you are to be wrong at some point in time. And two, as well, you're paying tax. And so for us as ETF investors, we want to pay as little tax as possible and just let our wealth build slowly and accumulate over time. So that's what we're trying to do here at Rask Invest. So coming back to B, some of the resources that I think you should have at hand to be a good investor. Number one, join our community. Number two, I do enjoy first links. I ignore these guys. I read them if you like them, but generally speaking, they're not going to help you become a better investor. Get familiar with stock market history. So I love this particular book because it is a biography. And it takes you through numerous different stages of market cycles. And I think that's really important to get familiar and comfortable with those. Use resources such as this Vanguard asset class tool just to see what realistic returns actually look like year to year and become comfortable with those. We naturally gravitate towards, I think we're naturally pessimistic people when we think about the next stock market crash, like, what about the market crashing? A lot of people don't naturally gravitate towards the next stock market recovery. So it's all part of natural cycles and the rhythm of the stock market. So make yourself familiar with that and you'll become more comfortable over time in the fine art of doing nothing and helping the gap here widen from your contributions to your return. So I'm not going to bang on it anymore. Thanks, Claire. I was wondering if anyone was out there, but thank you for joining me, everyone. Unless someone's got any questions right now, I'm happy to jump into it. Please use that Calendly link if you're new to investing and Rask Invest is something that you want to explore. You can have a chat to me. Talking with someone else and I feel like I'm maybe a bit more articulate when I'm doing that rather than talking to myself here on the screen. So I will put up links in the recording of this on YouTube to that article, How to Worry Better by John Addis, to our community, of course, to the thank you, Leon. Everyone's coming out of the woodwork now. Thank you, and thank you for calling me. All my mates call me Sneds. So thank you, Leon. I feel like we're mates now. I'll include links to all of the articles. But as I go on doing these, intended to have a mate of mine, Evan Lucas, who's written a whole book about behavioral investing with me today, but Evan couldn't make it. So next time we do this, he's going to be sitting here with me. But thanks everyone for joining me. I'll catch you on the Rask community. And also next Monday, Owen and I will be doing our October investor update in this time slot. So come back and you'll see myself and Owen having a chat with you all. So thanks, everyone. I'll catch you soon.